Hello, good afternoon, everyone from around the globe. Welcome to the 3D Organons webinar about how to start with virtual reality and how to use its potential for teaching and learning anatomy in particular. My name is Kristina Siposova, and I'm an XR and educational technology specialist, and I'm also a sales manager at 3D Organon, looking after our enterprise customers, educational and healthcare institutions in the North, Central, and South America, and also in Oceania. And today we have invited a special guest speaker, Dr. Favio Reyna. It's a big pleasure for us to have Favio with us during this session. Dr. Favio Reyna is a radiologist working at the La Paz Hospital in Guatemala, and he is also a professor of virtual anatomy, professor of head and neck anatomy, and assistant professor of emerging technologies in medicine at the University Francisco Marroquín in Guatemala. Favio, welcome. Hello.
Hi, thank you for letting me be here with you. It's awesome to be part of this.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a really nice number of participants joining us at this session. So I believe that all the medical professionals, educators, students, everyone who is following us, 3D Organon and what we do, I hope you will have a really nice experience from this session. We will have a look at how to start with virtual reality. What are the benefits of virtual reality and education? Fabio will also share his insights on how to prepare study materials, how to record videos. We know that this is something that educators and medical professionals, they really want to know those tips and hints from people who are experts on VR in education. And Fabio will also share some use case scenarios with you today. At the end, we will have a Q&A session, so please feel free to ask questions and use this opportunity to have an expert on XR today with us. Fabio, I will let you introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your experience, about the amazing work you do at the university with your students, and also give us some insights on how to start with virtual reality in education. So go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation at first. It's an honor for me to be here and to share with other people that are working with VR or are interested in doing so. So, well, I think you did a great job work at introducing myself, but I've been working with virtual reality approximately since 2017, I believe. And well, it's great to see the world expand on this technology, and it's a great opportunity for everybody to start adapting it and working with it in different educational entities. So thank you so much. And I don't know if you want us to start. I see that we have various people here.
Yes, please, because I think we can start. We have a nice number of participants joining us today. So
Okay.
yes, so we can go ahead.
Great. So let me see. Well, I made this presentation more like a conversation that we're going to have. And I built like some slides only to guide us through our conversation. And at first, I just want to say that I don't have any conflict of interest. The only thing is that I've been working with Organon as part of the scientific board and trying to give my feedback on how to improve this software that is very great for medical students and for teachers also. So after saying that, one of the big questions is how can I start with VR? Fortunately, right now there's a lot of information out there. When I started, there was almost non-information on how to start. So I think what I'm going to give you is most of the tips that I've felt throughout the years and the things that I had to learn by myself when I started. So as you can see, all the slides are being translated also into Spanish. So we have English and Spanish. And well, I'm from Guatemala, so I can talk in Spanish if you want to. So at first, let me give you some key points about this, because I think it's very important. The first one is that one of the most important things when you start is to try to find which areas of knowledge are going to be benefited with this technology. Since anatomy is one of them, but probably you will like to expand the this technology to physiology, biochemistry, or other areas like cytology, for example. So this is one of the first things that I will recommend anybody that is starting with this, is to try to see what are the interests, not only of yourself, but also the institution that where are you working in. So saying that, I think it's also important to try to get involved other professors and medical students, trying to see their feedback on what they expect or in which areas do they believe this could be like something of impact. And I think this is very important. I don't know how many people have like addressed you with this type of questions, or how many
Yes.
people have you heard that they try to do this at first. But it's very important to do this at first, because working alone is very difficult. So if you find other people that like gives you impulse and a way to thrive this into your educational institution, I think it's great. Saying that, I think it's also important that afterwards, well, after you have already sought which areas of knowledge you want to address, you can start looking out for software solutions. So in the case of anatomy or 3D Organon VR, it's one of the solution, and it's great. I'm going to give some examples of this software. So because there are many options out there, it's kind of tricky to find them sometimes, but everything is on the web now. So doing a good Google search or trying to see into the Steam or Oculus or other libraries that of software related to VR can be useful. And after you have like did a lot of research, probably did your Excel and trying to list everything, it's very important for you to try to see the hardware requirements. And this is where it gets a little like you need some knowledge about technology. Not every time, but it's important for you to see that are requirements at least, because not all softwares run in every headset. So I think that is very important. I don't know if you have like anything to add here, but
Yes, definitely. There are so many hardware options out there, but also getting in touch with the software providers, it's a good idea, because they can assist you with the appropriate hardware solutions. So if you get in touch, for instance, with us, we will always let you know what are the best hardware devices to be used for specific purposes. So yeah, it's always a good idea to basically talk to the software developers and talk to them directly, and they will assist you with the best choice, also depending on the use case. So probably Fabio will touch this topic, that you really need to know how you are going to use these software solutions, what is your setup going to be, how many students you're going to have, what's your space looks like. So there are so many criteria that you have to address, and we can assist you with that. So yeah, it's good to talk to your colleagues, or maybe talk to the IT department, but definitely talk to the software companies. They will be happy to help you with that too.
Yeah, it's amazing because many people are so open, like to ask questions, and they usually like respond very quickly. So I've found that also it's amazing the kind of connections that you can make only by sending an email, for example. So thank you. That's also very important. And after like seeing what areas, what hardware I'm going to use and what software, I can start choosing my VR headset, because there are many options out there. That's what I'm going to show you right now. Actually, many people know about specific brands, but there are a lot more. So before moving into the VR headset, I think it's important only to give some advice about what types of VR headsets are out there. So, for example, there are smartphone powered devices. These ones work for softwares that do not need that much power. Like they don't have like advanced graphics, or they're very simple. And for softwares like 3D Organon VR, this won't work. I think that's very important for everybody to understand, that this type of software is very like limited. So I'm not going to talk about Smart Power VR because it's for specific settings. Basically, what we have are two devices. The standalone device, which needs no computer to run everything. And some of those devices can be connected to the computer and work as a hybrid. And these are the more recent ones. This was what we dreamed of back in 2018, because like in the, well, 2015, 16, and 17, what we have were PC control devices. These have much more power, but you have a wire connected to the computer. It's more uncomfortable, and they are kind of heavy, but they work amazing, and you can do a lot of development with them. So if we go like in a history way, PC control was first, and then right now we have standalone. Standalone doesn't need anything else than the headset and the controllers. So that's like the main difference. And some standalone devices allow us to connect to the computer via cable and also via the Wi-Fi. So that's called AirLink. And that's kind of like magical things. It's magical stuff, but it works. It works amazing when you have enough, or when you have the right Wi-Fi network. So there are a lot of tutorials though. I'm not going to be like explaining a lot, but if you want more information about it, you can write to me like anytime, and I will definitely help you. So these are a lot of the devices that we have out there. Like you see here, you have Oculus, Vive, Pico, Hewlett Packard, we have PlayStation devices, a lot of brands. Even though we even have here the smart power devices, which I told you later that for most anatomy softwares, they won't work, okay? So you need like best solutions. And for example, usually every software has a list of the hardware that it's compatible with their software. So what I will recommend is, when you already like found a software that it's of your interest, you should go throughout their website and try to find the list of devices that are compatible with them. So for example, Organon has a list of devices, and this is a screenshot from the website, in which you can see all the devices that in which you can use 3D Organon VR. And this is like a quick tutorial on how to use VR, because it's a little complicated once you're trying to do it. But basically, this is PC VR. This is where back in 2018, 17, when I started my VR lab, I had to do this, and it hasn't changed too much. But if you understand this, you're going to be great at any VR device. First, you need to clear the area where you're going to use the software. That's called a safe area or play area, depending on the hardware. And after you have cleaned your space, you need to set up boundaries. Those are the blue dotted lines here. And you can ask, how is the headset going to know where I'm at? What am I doing? So that's why every headset has a sensor, an infrared sensor in most cases. These sensors depend on the brand. They need to be fitted like so they can see you completely. And what will happen is that your headset is going to integrate all this information about the sensors, your controllers, the position, the safe area, everything, and is going to place you in a digital position on the software that you are trying to use. And of course, you can deduce from here that this is PC powered VR. Okay, this is how it was going to be set up in my lab. For example, I have 8 PCR VR devices already like embedded into the laboratory. And this can be a little tricky. And this will get you, well, get us into one of the points that I'm going to talk afterwards. I don't know if you have any other like recommendation, Christina.
Yes, what you are showing is, as you say, it's the setup that was very common back in 2018, 19, 20, and now we are moving more towards a standalone VR setup. So the standalone VR devices that you plug in, that you can convert into PC VR headsets, they don't need the tracking boxes, which is good. So so if you don't want to complicate your setup at the lab, it's maybe a good idea to have a look at the standalone VR devices and maybe convert some of them into PC VR. You need to have a VR ready PC. This is also important to mention. So when you're gonna connect the standalone VR headset into a PC, you need to make sure that the PC is able to run a certain type of software solutions. So you need to check the minimum system requirements for the computer as well. And in that case, as I said, you don't have to set up the sensors. It's everything embedded within the VR device. So it makes it a bit easier, but it's always a good idea in the VR space, regardless of whether you have the tracking or the sensors or not. It's good to mark your space where the user is going to be moving around. So you can use some kind of taping, like white or color tapes. You can use different colors of carpets, or you can just somehow mark the area where the student will be moving or the professor will be moving around, so nobody will go to that specific area. So we always suggest to mark the space with different colors, for example. That's quite common.
Yeah, it's very important because many people like are not used to this technology, and whatever you're saying is very like, I know it may sound like easy, but it's not when when you're really doing it. And trying to address what Cristina is saying, you can see in some of the advanced VR devices, like for example, Oculus, that's one of the brands that are readily known. You can see these little dots. Those are the cameras. Those are the sensors. So that's a standalone device. It has the sensors, the big boxes that I was talking about later. These sensors are embedded in the headset. So that's great because you don't need to place like these big boxes everywhere. And it's really useful when you also want VR lab that you can move easily. If you don't have like this area only for VR. And if you intend to, I don't know, give some lectures in one classroom, then in another one, this could be an option, a standalone device. Standalone devices work this way. Sorry, I just need to mute, sorry. Standalone devices work pretty much this way. When you just plug and practically play, you need to turn on. And what they usually will say to you is that first you need to recognize the floor. Sorry, I think it went too fast. But after you place it on your head and load it, you will first need to place the floor. That's important, obviously, to keep like your height adequate, right? Afterwards, you have placed the floor, you will set up the boundaries. And as Christina said, it's very important for you to mark this in some way. You can use, for example, if you're using a rock here, you can use tape, you can use anything. I want to recommend using glass. I've seen some VR labs where they put glasses like in between students. That can be a little, I don't know, risky. But afterwards, you have done this, it will set like, please confirm this. And the idea is to set you up in a safe room. And anytime you like get close to those boundaries, you will get a warning. So that's it.
Yeah.
And
sorry to interrupt, Fabio. Maybe here is also important to mention that if you don't have enough space in the lab or wherever you want to perform the VR activities, you can also set up a stationary boundary where you will be just sitting or standing in the same position. So with 3D Organon and also I believe with other apps, you have the possibility of having the standing or seated experience where you can actually do the whole manipulation of the model and the whole user interface from the standing or seated position. So you can manipulate manipulate the structures, rotate, move up and down, scale, zoom in and out. So you can do the whole manipulation without the need of actually walking around. It's better to be able to move freely around the area so that you can have this perception, more immersive perception when you can move freely. But if you don't have this possibility, if you really have a reduced space, you can still place several students within a limited area where they will be just sitting in one place, and they will still be able to have a really good experience within the application. So just have this in mind. Yeah, it's also good to know.
Thank you. It's important because sometimes the students get like drowsiness from even moving. Some people have this sensibility to that, and so I've used that. I have just placed a chair, and they can sit comfortably, and so they just move a little or even not moving. So that's an excellent point there. So now that we have done that, sometimes, for example, for Guatemala, it was hard for me to get the devices. So I had to wait some time before they could like be from usually United States. They send us via airplanes here. They need to pass through not immigration, from aduana.
Customs.
Customs,
aduana,
yeah. And so that takes a little time. You can use the time on your favor. You can start watching a lot of VR tutorials. What I usually do is that I use VR tutorials and also reviews, and mostly gameplay, because that way I can see how it works. And when I get my headset, I already know what I'm going to do, basically. So that's great. And it's very important for you to start thinking about your VR lab, because you need to be prepared. And one of the very important things is if you want to do like group sessions, or you want to do individual sessions. If you want the students to connect with you via the internet, like in a server, that's another thing that you can also do. And 3D Organon VR allows you to do this, and many other applications have this option. So it's very important for you to think about this, because this will demand some area, for example, as you were saying, and also the dynamics. And I'll show some example of dynamics that you can use. Obviously, the area that you're going to need, I have a big setting, so I have a big area. I don't have that trouble, but when we started, I just have a very limited area for the VR. And as we were saying, it's important to predefine the areas, to be highlighted. This VR is going to be here. This one is going to be there. You can even place a sticker on the headset, so you can know this is the number 1, 2, 3, and you can do the same on the areas. Another thing that I had to do for my university is to make reglamento, some rules on how to use the equipment, and the behavior that the students need to have on the laboratory, because that's something important in every university. And since this is going to be like I do it as a lab, it's important to have. Another thing that probably is not that, sometimes you don't think about it, and it can be very important, is to have protection and storage for your VR headset, because since this is not equipment that, well, it's not cheap, it's going to be costly, sometimes even a lot if you own like PC power devices. You need somewhere to storage them and protect them. I even have, well, right now you can also buy like some gum protection. I don't know how to say it, like casing
like
for
a silicone
VR headset.
like a face pad, or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just need to plug in my computer.
Yeah, no problem.
So that's something important. Even some brands can sell you like a suitcase when you can just put your headset there and it's very secure. So you don't have any really problem with that. Also, the controllers, you need to be aware and teach the students how to properly put them on the table, because sometimes they drop. I have that trouble sometimes, and dropping a controller can mean damage, and well, it's kind of hard to get a new one. So put in the controllers, everything, and that's important on the rules. Something that we were discussing earlier is charging. I think this is not as important, not very important in PC powered VR, because the computer is always charging the device. But for standalone devices, the battery is very important. Most of the headsets can last as long as 2 hours. That's usually the length the battery can handle on VR. After that, you need to charge, and most of the headsets charge up to 1 or 2 hours on delay. So if you're going to have big VR lectures, I'll usually go with PC VR or connecting the standalone device with a computer. But as Cristina said, it's important for you to have a laptop that can run VR. And you can even like do some testing on different laptops. There are some softwares like Steam VR has this option that can analyze your computer and tell you if it's ready for VR or not. So that's very important. And well, you could also have a lot of headsets and just like change your headset, but not in many places you can do this. So charging and battery time, it's very important. Another thing to consider is that you can expand the battery, but this will also be, well, give you some cost that you probably haven't think about. And if you need to do it on a budget, you should do it like on the first time. Yeah, so charging is very important.
Yeah. Also, sorry to interrupt. So for the charging, I think, yeah, it's maybe a good idea to have the standalone VR devices after the session finishes, so after the lecture. So always have them charging, so so that they are ready for the next one. So yeah, this is good to have it in mind, because then the next group comes and suddenly they are not able to use the headset. So always have them charging. And you can have like a special space for charging the VR devices as well. Yeah, and maybe we can just mention, when you were saying about the equipment protection, I believe that was because of the damage that can happen to the hardware, but also we can maybe mention the protection when it comes to the hygiene concerns. So that's also important to know, that you can get for your students and for yourself some disposable face pads, or just like a silicone protection for your face that you can then change it, or you can clean it easily with some disinfection wipes. So there are options. Also, of course, thinking about disinfecting the controllers, that's important. We also have a disinfection guide for these head-mounted displays, so you can get in touch with us. We'll share this guide with you in the manual, how to disinfect your VR devices. So I think this is also nice to have it in the lab and think about it.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for reminding me that after the pandemic, everything changed, and this part is very important. And you can have a face pad that's disposable, as you said, or a rubber band. Well, it's like rubber material, and that can be disinfected easily. So thank you. That's very important. And make sure you always get your device charged, and also that they have the latest software and the updates, because sometimes we forget this, and it's very awful to have the lecture right in 5 minutes, and when you see, oh my God, the software is not updated. So you need to start with the updates, and this usually takes time. So in my faculty, I have the opportunity of have an IT support, and they usually like have always the VR headset charged, updated. But if you don't have that support, this is something very important to consider. And well, you need to get familiar with the software and the VR stores. I'm just going to show you some examples because this cannot be like very, I don't know how many people use it, but Steam, for example, it looks like this. And usually all the important things are basically here in your library and in your downloads. So these are the tabs that you need to look at if you need to upload anything, and if you need to search, and if you want to buy or look for software, it's over here. Oculus is a little different. Usually they have a big setting when you can control everything. Settings are here, and you have a search area here, so you can also look for softwares. Now, talking a little bit about the benefits of VR, there are a lot of evidence that shows that VR is useful, that it has a lot of applications, and that students do love it. It's a great experience for them, and mostly because some people don't have this abstract way of thinking. So it's very important for them to visualize the anatomy. So I built a little list about some of the benefits, like very briefly. The first one, this is not one thing that we could consider for anatomy, but it do exist. You can teleport anywhere. For example, for history, you can go to Italy, then go to China, then move to another place like that. But in the human body, it's very interesting because you can teleport yourself into the heart, into the lung. See this microanatomy and the macroanatomy. So that's very interesting about VR. You can also travel in time. This is not for anatomy, but for example, if you have a professor interested in having VR for history, it could be useful. And something very interesting about VR is also that the students can learn in the context. For example, you can have an environment specifically of what you're teaching them. And 3D Organon has an environment of for example, of a quirófano, a surgery. A surgery, you have a surgery table, you have some desks there, and you have also the futuristic environment. So there are different examples of environments, and this will help you with the context of learning. One of the things that I based the project in is that you have the opportunity to stimulate a lot of the senses. For example, students can touch, like with the controllers, they even vibrate, they can see, they can hear. This will eventually give a better learning experience. So this is something great about VR. Also, this sounds a little weird, but you have superpowers in VR. You can do things that you couldn't in the real life. For example, you can build and unbuild the human body. Like you can draw pieces from it, you can put it back, you can even cut the human body and see through it, like you will do on a CT scan or an MRI, for example. You can highlight, you can draw in ways that you couldn't in the real life. Students usually have this autonomy. They can move out and they can do like the learning experience that they want also. Some softwares show you empathy, shows you how to deal with stressful situations or how to calm people that are having some difficulties. You can rehearse, and this is one of the things that I will like to teach my students. They can rehearse real life experiences. So one of the things that I tried with VR, for example, is to show them to rehearse previously on going to the dissection, a human dissection. So that's something great also. And this worked a lot during the pandemic. You can have VR, you can do a session remotely. So people can be in one room and another one in one room, even in their homes. It only depends on the network, right? And one of the most important is that you have your student focused. They won't be allowed to have any other distraction. because they have the VR glasses on their head, on their eyes. So you will control what they are experiencing. And that is amazing. So for the learners, this is very important because usually in a normal classroom, students will be with their cell phones, they have their laptops, they can see their teammates or other students, and they can be easily distracted. Oh, that's on benefits. And talking a bit about my experience with 3D Organon, here's one of the interviews that I had back in, I think it was 2020, right?
Yeah.
Well, since I started with 3D Organon since the beginning of the project, it's been really incredible for me and my students. 3D Organon has let us like do a lot of different activities. You have the opportunity to build the learning sessions as you want to, because you have tools, you can write, you can point, you can do like this. This is one of my students. They literally like put away all the body parts, and they can then build them again. So that's great for them. And they can also highlight and see more information about each part. It can be like veins here, arteries, nerves, anything. So it's kind of having a human atlas that you can build and unbuild anytime you want. And well, it's been great. I have given a lot of lectures with this, plenty session hours, and most of my students do love it. As you can see, this was at the beginning, like ending 2019, when we only had PC powered devices. And with this, during the pandemic, what I did is that I started recording myself, and I built like a big library. Well, no, it's not too big, but I have a library of videos of, anatomy videos, and I used it basically using some of the sources, VR sources. These are some of the videos. Some of them have many views, others don't have that many, but it's been great. And I have a lot of comments that I should keep doing this, and I do want to because it's great. And these are some examples. You can see like this one is one of the first that I've ever recorded. And now I can see it, and I do see some mistakes. And basing myself on all the mistakes and experiences that I built, I'm going to give you some recommendations. You can see like the differences. This is the first one that I recorded. This is one of the last ones that I recorded. And well, after doing this for a long time right now, I have some recommendations for you. That's what I would love to give you. And well, I invite you to see the channel. It's Anatomia Virtual UFM. You can find it easy on YouTube. And I would love you to visit the channel. And before giving you some of the recording recommendations, some use case scenarios you can have are individual sessions and group sessions. If you don't have that much VR headsets, you can go with group sessions and give the group some goals. So you have 10 minutes to find some structure, for example, and they love it because it's like a challenge for them. And usually with PCVR, they can see what one of them are doing. So that's great. You can also have the cadaver at a side, or before going to the cadaver, you can also teach them or give them an anatomy lecture, so they can compare the anatomy between the anatomy atlas and the cadavers, for example. You can do something else like find and seek, try to find this structure and then go to find it in the cadaver. So that are a great experience for them. You can also use the 3D version of the softwares. Organon has this opportunity for them. And you can always cast. You can put yourself the VR and you can cast on another screen so students can see. In every one of these, well, mainly when you're recording yourself or casting, the recommendations are the same. And this is what I want to give you. For assessment scenarios, the first thing that you need to think about is that you need to create relevant activities for them and the professors, basing yourself on learning outcomes or objectives. And what I've done lately is doing like some question and answers with VR. I give them like a piece of paper with some questions. They can need to find the structure. So that's great. They love it because it's a challenge and they need to review a lot of things. You can also tell them to record themselves trying to explain something about the anatomy of a region, for example, and then you do a debriefing with them. You can see the video and give them feedback on the positive or the negative or the things that need to improve. You can also have like a big a VR classroom. I've done this and it's great. People can connect throughout the cloud and you as the teacher can show them the structures on VR. For recording, these are some of the recommendations. First, you need always try to prepare yourself with a script. What are you intending to teach or say? Prepare your scene before recording. That's very important. Have everything set up so you can feel comfortable. You can, this has to, well, after like doing your script, you can prepare the scene so you can know what you're going to teach and try to always use the tools. For example, Organon has great things. They have you to this like paint option. I use it to highlight things and you can draw on the screen. Don't be afraid of that. I have the worst handwriting, but it can be readable on VR. And before recording, secure very good your headset so you don't have all this movement. So that's very important. And try to record first a demo and try your microphone because it's so frustrating when you finish all the recording and it doesn't have audio. That's so that I had this sometimes and it's awful. And the most important of all, maybe mostly, is stay still. Try not to move a lot your head because we usually do this and we don't even notice. But try to stay still because people do get drowsiness when seeing the video afterwards. And reduce your movements. Also try to have great audio. That's something that I did at first. I didn't have this great audio. And now I try to use like big microphones or try to get it more on my mouth so you can hear more, better. One of my favorite use case scenarios is the classroom. Here is a video of Organon. This is an example where students get all connected and then we share them a link and they enter that link so they can join the session. And when they join the session, it's great because you can see them. They can even choose the avatar, place their names, and you have the opportunity. Well, only this is so exciting for them, like being on VR and watching themselves. It's like great. It really motivates them. And having lectures like this, it's so amazing. It's so futuristic and immersive for them. You can do these kind of superpowers that I was telling you. So you can write, you can point, you can do a lot of things on VR. And these are some examples of this. And for example, in 3D Organon VR, you have the cadaver, so you can compare them and say them, well, when you go to the cadaver, this is what you need to find. And you also have microanatomy. So there are a lot of things to use VR using this way of, well, this use case scenario. And that's it.
Oh, Fabio, thank you. Thank you very much. I was about to ask you, thank you so much for all the insights. I was about to ask you, and you're mentioning the favorite use case, do you do the multi-user with your students in the classroom, or do they join from somewhere else, from their homes or from other countries?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last.
Yeah, whether you do the multi-user sessions with your students in the classroom physically, or do they join from other places around the world or from their homes? What's the usual scenario?
The usual scenario is in the faculty. because right there we have a good Wi-Fi, because if the student doesn't have a like good Wi-Fi on their house or in another place, it can be not that you can have lag or lagging, or you could be lagging, so you have that great connection. And so I prefer to do it on site, so I think it's better.
Okay, yes, this is a really good point. Actually, the internet connection has to be very good, and you have to make sure that your students have a good internet connection if they are joining from homes, for example. This is a good point to have in mind. Okay, amazing. And when you were mentioning the recording of the videos, I think this is something that the educators would like to try. And of course, we have to say that this comes with the experience. So when you record the first few videos or you prepare the study materials and then you watch them over and over again, you will see things that you have to improve, which is really normal. And when you were mentioning the movement, like the people that who are usually, when you are recording a session, you want to gesticulate or you want to move a lot. So then, as you say, it can be really, it can be very confusing, and this can create a dizziness for the others. And this also applies to the real-time teaching sessions, not only when you record, but when you do the real-time teaching sessions and you project to a bigger screen. Yeah, it's really good to have in mind that the movements, they have to be really limited. You have to focus on the object and just move very slowly and not do really fast movements. But I think everything comes with the experience, and it's really nice to see the examples that you showed us. And I invite all the attendees to visit the Anatomia Virtual because the videos are really great, and Fabio will be putting some more, I believe. So we encourage you to record videos as well and upload them on YouTube or your intranet and share it with your students, because the objective is to spread the content of VR and to spread this way of learning around the globe. So thanks a lot, Fabio, again. We have 13 minutes left for the Q&A session, so it will be great if all the attendees they ask their questions now, use the opportunity to have Fabio with us today. So we have a few questions coming in. Okay, amazing. Hello, Karel. Karel, it's joining us today. He's asking, is health and safety of your students a concern? Do you let users sign some general usage lapse or VR usage health and safety paperwork? People can easily fall or trip over cables, get motion sickness, etc. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you, Karel. That's a very good example question. The first lecture that I give any group of medical students, I always start with this, because it's so important for them to notice you if they are feeling drowsiness, if they feel scared, if they don't like it, or they get headaches. And I explain them that that's very important. I don't get them like sign anything, because in my faculty it's not necessary, but I always give them this like advice in any lecture before I start, like on the first one, the second one, every time. So it's very important. Some students don't feel comfortable with using VR. So what I do is that I give them the opportunity to see, and usually I project one of the headsets to we have some screens on the center of the lab so they can watch. Or there's also the option of doing it on a sitting position, like Christina was saying. So, but of course, it's very important for them to let them know that you care about them and you don't want anything bad to happen to them. Also with the cables, what you can do like the cables can be on the sky. There are some ways to do this. You can put it like the cables hanging, so you don't have the trouble of them walking and like getting their feet crumbled with the cable. So that's something that you can do. Obviously, it will take a little more time to set up, but it's an option. So thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Fabio, also. Aileen Torres, thank you for joining. She's asking, would you repeat the name of the YouTube channel where we can learn more about VR? Maybe if you can, Fabio, mention in the chat for everyone to see, so that would be great. So it's a link where all the videos are uploaded and you can learn nicely from. I believe they are in Spanish, right? But still, still you can have a really good inspiration, because you can see how the tools can be used. Like Fabio is using a lot for mnemotechnics. He's using a lot the drawing tool. and like the 3D painting tool, slicing tool, and he's putting structures in X-ray so that they are faded, etc. So there are some kind of nice tricks and tips that you can get from those videos. And so I believe, Fabio, you shared through the chat the information, right?
Yes, I shared with you the name of the channel is Anatomia Virtual UFM, University Francisco Marroquín. And I've also sent my email. So if there are any answers or you want to like give you more examples or share, you can write to me anytime. I will
Okay.
greatly
I will. Thank you.
advance.
I can see. Okay. I will share it also with everyone. So I'm putting for everyone in the chat here. I'll copy paste from the chat. So please feel free to copy paste it from the chat so that you have the information. Thank you, Fabio. Amazing. We have also Stacy Ebert. Thank you for your question. If students are learning through distance education, not on campus, can they have different headsets or do they all need to be the same type?
Well, usually what bridges the headsets is the software. So usually that's not something, it's not a boundary. You can have different headsets. Once they have access to the software, the software like joins them on a server or in a cloud session. So yeah, you can have different headsets and it won't be a trouble.
Yeah, as you say, it really depends on the software, whether the software provides these cross-platform functionalities. So for instance, with 3D Organon, we do have this cross-platform support, like support between standalone VR and PC VR devices. So you can connect without any issues with any type of VR headset, and you can have multi-user sessions together with your students, and it will work smoothly. Everything's going to be synchronized across different VR devices, but it's always good to check with the software solution provider because there may be some other limitations in some other cases.
Yeah.
Perfect. Peter Warnes is asking, how long should a session last? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually, the maximum number of minutes that I spend on VR, well, that my students spend, it's 2 hours. But usually what I do is that I try to restrict the time on VR. And I tried for them to not be more than 30 to 50 minutes on the VR. And all my headsets have the night vision, well, the night filter. So they don't have like too much light reflected on their eyes because it can be you can get fatigue, vision fatigue. And there's even a study that says that probably you shouldn't like pass more than an hour on VR because it's not recommended, and you can get, like I was saying, vision fatigue or more side effects like drowsiness or something like that. So usually what I do, I have a 2-hour lab and I divide my 2 hours on sessions, like small sessions for all my students to be on it. So usually they spend most like 20 minutes, 30. One time I did like 50 minutes, but I have a small group, but that's it. And if it's going to be lasting like 50 minutes, I try to get them on VR like 10 minutes most, maximum, get them out of VR, give them some lecture out of it, trying to explain them some things they saw or what they did, or have a PowerPoint presentation so they can like rest a little, and then I get them back to VR. So it's more dynamic.
Okay, great. So even though like the session lasts 2 hours, but I believe the students are rotating and they have a bit of time in VR. Yeah, great. Peter is also asking, Peter Warnes, will we get the presentation of Favio? I would like to share with the team. So I just wanted to mention that we are recording the webinar and it's going to be available. We will send the recorded session to everyone so you can share it with your colleagues further. Perfect. We have another question from Amer Alfahel. Thank you. Is Oculus 2, is it an education option? Or does it have, it says that, or does it have an education option? Yeah.
Well, actually, the Oculus 2 is the hardware, but there are a lot of educational options embedded in the software options. Like you can download, for example, there's Organon. There are a lot of other options, software options that do like can serve for education. So yeah, it depends. Like the hardware is not like it doesn't have like an educational that already has this software installed. It's you that chooses which softwares to install and how to use it. But what they do have is a business option, but that's only available for United States, United Kingdom, and I don't remember where else. That is just for like administrating your Oculus headsets more easily. But that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Then we have a question from Aileen again. What's a round number in the cost of purchasing of VR equipment?
Well, it depends. If you want like PC VR, it's costly. Usually, it won't be under $1,015, approximately $1,200. I don't know if I'm translating.
Okay. Yeah, 1,200. Yeah, just the VR device. You mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the PC.
Well, the PC and the VR headset, like it won't get under that price, so it's very pricey. But if you go for standalone devices, it usually goes from $350 to $800, and you can go more away, but it's cheaper. Yeah, standalone devices are cheaper. Oculus, for example, costs I believe $350.
Yeah, around there. Yeah. It's a cheaper option, especially when you want to get multiple VR devices. Like, let's say you want to get 20, 30. So definitely the standalone VR, it's an option. But we always suggest to get at least one PC VR workstation. It's because of the quality of graphics and other options that the PC VR allows you to have. So yeah. And then, but we mentioned that the standalone VR can be converted into PC VR. So it's also.
I think a standalone is a great option because of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I do
exactly.
believe that. Yeah.
Nice. We have some more questions from Elena. Elena Birdsong is joining us today. Also, Elena is asking, from a cost standpoint, what would be the minimum investment of hardware and software needed to begin using 3D Organon in the classroom?
Okay, well, this depends. This depends on the number of students that you have, and if you wish to start like giving individual sessions or group sessions, and if you do have enough time on your curriculum to have individual sessions. For example, as I was saying, I have 2 hours per week per section, and I have 30 students per section of students. So that's why I divide them like in little sessions of 20, 30 minutes each, where when the student has the opportunity to do something in VR. But if you're promoting, your students are like in groups of 10, or you do not have like a lot of students, you have more time available. So it depends. You can start, well, I started with 8 VR devices, PC powered, so it was very expensive, but you can start with 8 or 10 standalone devices, and I think that will be great. And I usually, like Cristina was saying, will do recommend having at least 1 PC powered license, because you will have another experience with it, and it's much more stable, and you can do a lot of things in there. Like you can have the ultrasound simulator, for example, on that version only, because it demands a lot of software, well, hardware. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Fabio. I think we are reaching the end of the webinar. So I'm really glad that we were able to share such a good experience from your side and your expertise. So thank you for sharing your valuable expertise with us today. There was just one last question I will mention because I want you to encourage to get in touch with us. So Aranda is asking, saying thank you for the great session, and could you share the link to download the safety guidelines on the use of VR headsets? So I just wanted to mention really fast that you can get in touch with us through our website or through an email. So and you can request this manual for how to disinfect the VR devices, and we will send you the attachment in PDF. So feel free to get in touch with us directly. And if you can go maybe Fabio to the last slide just for the end of the session.
Of course.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to thank you to all the attendees joining us from around the globe today. I hope you had a good experience from this session. I would also like to encourage you to visit our website, 3dorganon.com, where you can contact us anytime. You can ask any questions you may have, and you can also request a trial or a free demonstration for your preferred VR or non-VR device if you don't have virtual reality headsets. And we will be really happy to guide you through the whole implementation process. We'll assist you with the correct choice of hardware and software solutions. So please contact us. And Fabio, thanks again. I hope we will see each other next time soon. We are having a next webinar next month. We will let you know in advance. So goodbye. Have a nice rest of the day, and until the next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for coming in. Be like feel confidence for me to write to me if you want. I'll reply any emails that I get, and thank you a lot for the opportunity. It was great to share some of my experience.
Yeah, thank you, and goodbye, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.